Man Dan, playing chess every day until Melina and I beat each other with sticks. Today's episode is a special one for me in that I finally broke 500 Elo. I am nowhere near my goal. My goal of playing chess is to become a GM, a Grandmaster, no, a Grandmother. Regardless, I'm going to be covering 2 games I've played. Both games which led me to break 500 Elo, and I think it's a really good lesson on, breakthroughs in chess. What do I mean by that? We'll find out shortly. So the first game is a very short game. You can see here it's only 9 moves, and both as white. So with both games, I played the London system. So d4, knight f6. Already not the best move. It is not bad. Excuse me. However, you'll see. Here, bishop b4, pawn e6. Pawn e6 is really weird because it does 2 things. One, it doesn't fight for the center, and the moment he kicks out his d pawn, he blocks his bishop, his light square bishop. Pawn e3, bishop e7. Here, I'm getting in a habit of, as I'm developing, what is my opponent trying to do? Does my opponent have any threats? Well, the only 2 pieces he developed, his knight, no development, or no threats. His bishop, not even close. And he blocks the queen. Here, I move pawn to c4. The deal with pawn to c4 is Queen's Gambit style. My opponent castles, which is fair. Knight to c3, pawn to c6. That pawn to c6 doesn't do anything. Like, this is what I'm saying. It's weird development. Here I go pawn to f3. My opponent responds with d5. Here, now we're trying to fight for the center. Now, I'm going to ask you a question for anyone who cares to watch. Does my opponent have any threats? No. Who's better developed? I think I am. And what's my opponent's game plan? I don't know. I respond bishop b5. Here, I feel like I've almost fully developed. I'm ready to attack. I decided, hey, I'm going to put pressure on that knight. My opponent responds with knight to d7. The idea being he's defending that knight. I decide to take. My opponent takes. I move my pawn to e5. My knight to e5. What is so cool about this move, or what I think is a good move? This move allows me to plop my knight and control the center of their side of the board, and it makes my move better. Here, my opponent responds to b6 and then resigns. I think this game was pretty good in the sense that I stick to good fundamentals. By no means am I winning a lot, right? I have a +1 advantage of material. So just because I have a better opening, chess still has to be played. My opponent decided, hey, I don't want to play chess. Maybe he was going for an opening. Let's see if it was an opening he was going for. Queen's pawn opening. Yeah, so, with knight to f6, a good move would have been here. He would have just done the King's Indian defense. And for the King's Indian defense, I would have responded with knight to f6, knight to c3. Regardless, pretty easy game. We're gonna go to the final game in which I won. I got over 500 Elo. So, another white game, played on the system. Traditional stuff. Knight to d4, knight to f6. When you are studying chess, and I think this is one of the first 2 games that my cylinders are starting to go off, is all pattern recognition. Within the first couple moves, I already know what my opponent's trying to do, or rather, how I'm going to respond to my opponent. Here, my opponent goes pawn to b5, fighting for the center, e3, knight to c6. So here you have 2 knights developed, and with no viable threat. The moment I see knight to c6, these lines in which I've studied, I respond with pawn to c4, and which is in fact the best for the computer, according to the computer, excuse me. My opponent responds pawn e6, solidifying their side of their weird pyramid. I go knight to c3. So, in the previous couple of videos, if anyone has watched, I've been mentioning that there is a line that's not necessarily the best. However, lower Elo players like myself will encounter and could potentially lose to. What do I mean by that? My opponent goes knight to e4. What's the idea with knight d4? The knight d4, he's inviting an exchange of knights, and if I don't take, he's gonna take my knight. So he's trying to clear the C3 square. His plan is to kick out the bishop. I respond to rook to c1. I could have defended this knight with my other knight. However, I wanted to activate my rook. My opponent responds with bishop to b4. So, if I wouldn't have developed my pieces in a certain order, I wouldn't have gotten checkmated, for instance, but I definitely would have lost a queen. And I'm going to show you here real quick. I now respond with knight to e2. So, good fundamentals of chess that especially beginners need to, like myself, need to understand and solidify is that if you're going to attack an opponent's piece, especially if it's on their side, you want to attack a piece with 2 times more attacking pieces than they have defended. So let's do a little bit of math. We'll open up the evaluation board. My knight is being defended by 1 pawn, 2 rook, 3 knight. My knight is being attacked by 1 knight and 1 bishop. Here I feel super confident. I'm actually inviting the exchange. The exchange that I've calculated in my head the moment I moved my knight to e2 was something on the lines of bishop takes. I respond with the knight. So my opponent either could take with the knight or move his knight back. If we would have taken, I have a really good position. I have, not only did I clear that BS check attempt, I now activated my rook. The best move, if I wouldn't have activated my knight, this is where it could have gotten really bad, is, let's just say I would to take, excuse me. So if I move my knight here, in inaccuracy. Why is that an inaccuracy? Because he's gonna go check, take, check. And at this point, I can't do anything. I can't move my queen. Oh, I could have moved my queen to stop it. I gotta move it here. Regardless, I wouldn't have got fried livered. However, if you look at the evaluation board, negative 5.1 advantage for black. So, move pieces matter extremely. By me defending that knight, it prevents all that. So, regardless, that's not the exchange that occurred. What occurred was pawn takes c4. I follow with pawn a3. The idea with pawn a3 is whenever I have a piece pinned, a pawn could be a good tool of asking the piece what's his intent. So by moving this pawn a3, I'm asking this bishop, what's your intent? Well, his intent was to go pawn g5, leaving his pawn hanging. Here he takes, so the idea with moving his pawn, I should have mentioned earlier, pawn to g5, is now he's offering in exchange. If you take my bishop, I take your bishop. Is that an equal trade? Well, let's find out. g5 was a blunder. Here comes Rose. The moment I take that bishop, and my opponent takes back, the evaluation bar, don't mind Rose, she's just in the background. The evaluation bar goes +2 advantage. So even though both my opponent and I took a bishop, the advantage is way better for myself. And why is that? Because I could take that pawn. Well, that probably wasn't the best move. I take that bishop. I take that knight, excuse me. So, even though we have an even exchange, not all exchanges are the same. Even if you're taking the same piece or a piece that's worth the same that you're about to lose. Why is that? Because chess is dynamic. Chess is ever evolving. You know, just because you trade a piece, it's not just points you're losing. It literally transforms the board and the way the game is being played. So here, we both take, I take the knight. My opponent responds, knight to d3. What is the idea? Potentially targeting that rook. However, that square is being defended by the bishop. Here my opponent takes, and I take back to the queen. If we go up to the evaluation board, if it never bothers to load, +6, almost 7 points of advantage. Now, there's 2 things about this. 1, I have a lot of material advantage, but 2, after that premature attack, the premature attack on black, not only do I have a material advantage, but look how many pieces I have to develop. I have a rook activated, my queen is in the game, my 2 knights, and a decent pawn structure. And I could literally just castle and continue the game. And what does my opponent have? Nothing. My opponent has no pieces developed. His only developed pieces he's lost. So at this point, I'm up so much material, what's the best move? Well, whenever you find yourself in a game that you are winning by a lot, almost any move is a good move as long as you don't blunder. So as long as you don't leave a place hanging and you blunder, you're winning. My opponent goes pawn f5, putting pressure on my knight. I move my pawn knight to c5. Now my opponent starts throwing pieces at me. My opponent realized he didn't calculate that exchange well. And before I make my next move, if you notice also the time, my opponent has 1 less minute than me. What does that mean? My opponent didn't think things through. And also, to be fair to my opponent, this is also the line my opponent attempted to attack me with is a line I've actually studied. So this is important to in chess. Study your openings. Here I see an opportunity to plant my knight here to e6. I understand that this pawn is being defended by the bishop. However, I was okay with exchange. If we go right here, what a good tactic once you're up so much material is simplify the board. Here I take with the knight, targeting both this pawn and the queen. If my opponent decided to ignore, he would have got lost the queen. The best move my opponent could have played is bishop e6. So at this point, you're down so much material, even if the rest of the moves my opponent plays is the best in terms of the computer, you're still gonna lose the game. Because why is that? Now I have this implanted. My opponent, there's a few things my opponent could have done. My opponent moves his queen to f6, which allows me to perform a fried liver and take his rook. However, my opponent decides to resign, so at this point he just quit, which is pretty fair because he would have lost the game regardless. Now, for those wondering, oh, what if he moved his queen somewhere else? For example, to prevent a fried liver. What if he goes here? What can I do? I can still do a fried liver because if my opponent decided to take with the queen, my rook has whole control of the c file and is made in 6. What if my opponent instead decides to go here? Right? Well, something very similar could happen. I could move my, oh, that's actually a blunder. Yeah, that probably would have been a decent move. I could have still fried liver. What if my opponent decided, hey, I'm gonna go here? Guess what? Defense. Regardless, this is such a losing position. I think chess is I'm slowly starting to pick up patterns. If you're wondering, hey, what does it mean to study chess and to understand and do these pattern recognition? Well, it takes experience, right? My opponent, within the first few moves of Black's opening, I already recognized this line and had an idea on how to defend it. Not all games are going to go this way. However, chess is a game that requires a lot of studying and a lot of dedication. Now, for those of you who don't want to apply that effort into chess, that's okay, because at the end of the day, chess is just a board game. However, even if I don't reach high in chess, my journey thus far in chess has shown me how beautiful this game is and how intricate it is, and there's depth to this.